I think this is the 6th time in 2 years that we come together to mourn and to pray and to hope and to demand something better. And for the 6th time, I need to tell you that I'd rather not be doing this. I'd rather be at the Rudiment Inclusion Summit demanding justice for people with disabilities. I'd rather be welcoming birthright participants or insisting on food and housing for the poor. I'd rather be celebrating the incredible accomplishments of the only stable democracy in the Middle East that somehow thrives as a beacon of hope and technological excellence and Western values and democracy as darkness descends on the rest of the Middle East in the form of ISIS terrorism and Iranian support for the most virulent forms of state terror. But here we are again, trying to make sense out of something that just is so crazy, trying to build hope out of hopelessness, resilience out of an ongoing campaign of terror and hatred for Israel that seems to grind on from year to year and from moment to moment. Now, they told me that I was supposed to end this on a note of hope. And there is hope, and I'll talk about the hope. There's lots of hope, because there are lots of amazing people who do have resilience and who do have hope and who refuse to hate. All of that. But we also have to know that we are at the beginning of a long period of twilight war against chaos and terrorism that will require great strength and determination from the people of Israel, from the American Jewish community, and ultimately from all Americans and all people who care about the future of our children and the values we hold most dear. Terrorism is not just about inflicting pain on the people who they hurt. Terrorism is about destroying community. It's about dissolving the bonds that hold us together as a community. It's about people hating and fearing the people who they might not even know who are walking behind them on the street. That's what they're trying to do to us. That they're trying to destroy hope. And I couldn't help but thinking about a conversation I had with Congressman Moulton, where he talked about his own soldiers being torn apart by Iranian landmines in Iraq. And yet, Congressman Moulton returned to bring hope and to try to do something for his country, and that's the definition of hope. And when I listened to Micah Lakin talk about the fact that his grandchildren would never know their grandfather because of who I am and where I grew up and what I loved, I couldn't help but remembering that Congressman Kennedy never knew his grandfather, a grandfather who all of us in my generation loved and who represented hope. And those bullets destroyed not just his grandfather, but the hope, so much of the hope for the future of America that we all held in our hearts in 1968. Somehow or other, we must find the resilience and the strength to push back continuously on political leaders and on the media who distort the truth and who can't perceive the difference between victim and perpetrator, between innocent victim and terrorist. This is our job. We must never stop. For me, as a person of faith, the worst part of this is that so much of this is religious violence. We must never forget what religious violence looks like in all its terrifying ugliness, whether the beheading of innocent Christians or Yazidis, the vicious slaughter of Richard Lakins, or the price tag terrorism that Richard Lakins fought so hard to prevent, and for which he is still being vilified by some of our own people in ways too disgusting to mention. Religious violence must be as reprehensible to us and as rejected in the eyes of man as it is in the eyes of God. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks said, "Too often people have killed in the name of the God of life, waged war in the name of the God of peace, hated in the name of the God of love, and practiced cruelty in the name of the God of compassion. When this happens, If we listen closely, we can hear the voice of God beneath the clamor and of those claiming to speak on his behalf when God says at such times, "Not in my name," not in the name of religion, not in the name of faith. Hatred can never be passed off as the word of God. But we saw some hope in Israel. But we saw some hope in Israel as well. We stayed with the mom of a 12-year-old child just about to have his bar mitzvah, badly wounded, left for dead, found by Israeli first aid people who came to his help, saved his life, and he's now, thank God, preparing for his bar mitzvah with hope, with the hope of his family, and they made sure to say a lot of this happened because of the love of Hadassah Hospital and all that it did for him. So there we have it, Hadassah Hospital, Arab and Jewish doctors working together to save the life of Richard Lakin, to save the life of this boy. Across the way, the terrorist also being treated, because this is what we are. We are a people who pursues justice and righteousness, and in the face of everything finds hope and finds resilience and finds some ability to face the future with love and hope and with some feeling that we'll have something better for our children and our grandchildren. It was the same in Haifa. Haifa has very little violence. Haifa has very little violence because people have worked together for generations to build bridges between Arabs and Jews. Arabs are in the highest levels of the Haifa government, and those people will never give up. So when the violence started, signs went up all over Haifa and in other places around the country that said Jews and Arabs refuse to hate each other. That is the spirit of a people that is prepared to face the future with hope. So what am I giving you? Somehow or other we have to live with the fact that we're going to be fighting this fight for a very, very, very long time. There's no easy way out. There doesn't appear to be any easy way out. And somehow or other we have to fight this fight with all of our might and with all of our energy and resist hatred. That's a superhuman request, but it is what Jewish history demands of us. It's what the God of Israel demands of us. It's what our faith demands of us. It's what our common humanity demands of us.